Hey guys, welcome back to my ParrotSec tutorial. Today we're going to go over some basic things. One of the first things we're going to go over is changing your background, and then we'll lead into configuring some things within your terminal and different shortcuts you may or may not want. The nice thing is with Parrot, there are some things that are already pre-configured that I like to use, so you may as well. That's going to be completely up to you if you use them in the future, but it is a nice little thing to have. So the first thing we're going to do, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change my background, show you how easy it is, and it is something that a lot of users tend to do anyways. So they go out, they find a picture they like online, this, that, the other. What I'm going to do is use a picture that was already created for me. I have this custom made. I had a friend utilize the Parrot logo to keep with the Parrot theme, but add our own little flavor to it. So we're going to change it to this one. As you can see, it went quickly, and you can see the other Parrot wallpapers here and their designs. We just added black and white and then its own flair. So we're going to keep that. And then the next thing we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to do some things with the terminal and how it can be interacted with and things of that nature, and some shortcuts you can set up. So the first thing we're going to look at is the .bashrc file. So the .bashrc is where all your shortcuts are. Well, not all your shortcuts, but all your aliases, which are basically terms that you can be used to run multiple commands or run a command with all the different options that you prefer. I'll take you through it here right now. So what I like to use is VI, which depending on how your terminal is set up and your operating system and things like that, it may be Vim. But for us, it's VI. And we're going to do .bashrc. So here, what we're going to see in our home folder in .bashrc is our export path. So any bins that are in our path or any other directories that are in our path, where we can run executable files, or rather in Linux terminology, binaries, directly out of. So you've got .local bin, snap bin, user sandbox, user local bin, and the list goes on. And then from there, we've got history control and a bunch of other options that we're really not going to look at. You've got your fancy prompt and things of that nature. And then down here, and I will show you what these do here in a second, but you have an alias for ls, and the way they have that set up is not only does it run ls to list out your directories and files, but they set their color coordination to it. So directories are one color, binaries are another color, and things of that nature. But then they added in, and this is what I wanted to show you, some of the ones I like to do, which is LL, which is going to list your directory, your current directory, and it's going to put the file sizes and directory sizes in human readable format. So it's going to take it from a string of bytes to human readable, so kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, whatever it happens to be. And then they have LA, which is ls-lha. So not only is it going to list your directory in human readable with the size in human readable format, but it's also going to list all files, hidden directories, anything of that nature. So then we're going to go down here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this. What they have in there is the ability for you to create a .bash aliases file. All right. So it's already set up. If you want to do bash aliases, which is what I'm going to go here and do in a second, you could add them directly to the bashrc file, but we're going to take their advice, and instead of messing with this entire file and having to go through it all the time, we're going to create our own aliases. And once we do that, then I'll kind of show you why I'm creating the aliases I do, and I'll also explain it along the way. So to get out of this, since we never went into insert mode, we don't necessarily have to hit escape, but I did anyways as a precaution. And then you hit the colon and Q. All right, since we didn't make any changes, we're not writing anything, we didn't change anything, so we don't need a W and we don't need an exclamation point. We just quit. So from there, we're going to do touch.bash underscore aliases. Whoops. Aliases. Okay. So to show you this file, as I said, they created their own aliases. So if we were to do ls-l, which is what I told you about listing the directory, you have blue as your other directories, and you have green, which is anything that can be run. So binaries and things of that nature. Now, as I said, they have their own. So since I told you that H is human readable bytes, as you can see, you have 52 bytes, 4096, 22, and then over 6 million. So what we're gonna do, well, correction, over 6 million. We're gonna try their LL. What do you know? So LL shows us the exact same thing, only human readable. So instead of reading out all those bytes, we get shown 6.5 megs, 4 kilobytes, 22 bytes, and 52 bytes. Mind you, if there's nothing next to it, those are bytes. It's not kilobytes, megabytes, it's just bytes. So 52 bytes and 22 respectively. Then from there, we want to see all files. We just created a bash aliases file, a .bash underscore aliases file, but we can't see it. The reason for that is in Linux, if you put a dot before a file and or directory, it actually makes it a hidden file. So in order to see hidden files within Linux, you have to do a -a, or in our case, because we want to see human readable and list the files out in this method as opposed to this method, we're going to do LA. And what do you know? So now we can see all files and directories that are there. As you can see, we see our VBox client files, X-Authority, vimrc, KDE, and then here we see the .bash rc file that we had gone into earlier, and we see the .bash aliases file that I just created using touch. And all touch does is create a file. It doesn't do anything more than that. Creates a file under your user and group permissions, and it's blank. So what we're going to do is we are going to go into that file and we're going to make changes. So we're going to do vi.bash underscore aliases. Okay, so here we are. So now we're inside the file. Now, like I said, this is an alias file, so we got to create aliases. So we're going to do alias, and the first one I'm going to show you guys is what I run on almost a regular basis anytime I'm dealing with pen testing, or more frequently with capture the flags. And what that's going to be is a web server. So I like to stand up a web server on my own desktop, or on my pen testing box. In this case, we're going to say Parrot Linux, and we're going to do alias www equals sudo. Now the reason we're doing sudo is because with anything that utilizes ports and opening ports or listening on ports within Linux, you need to have admin privileges. And as we talked about in the last video, we're logged on as a user, and we will always log on as a user. You will never log on to Linux as root. I mean, you can, but for safety precautions, especially if you use this as a daily driver, you never want to log on as an admin or as your root account. Root has access to everything. You can wipe your entire computer with it. So we're not going to do that. We log on, we run this command with sudo, and I have been doing more and more with Python 3, especially since Python 2.7 has been deprecated, and Python 2 should technically be going away. Now granted, it is installed on a lot of systems still. I believe, and I'd have to double check, but I believe it may even still be installed on Parrot. I know it's still carried in Kali, and there's still a lot of tools and scripts that utilize Python 2. But I try to use Python 3 as much as possible, just to keep up with newer technology and the newer language and the different changes that they've made to it. So we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to do Python 3 -m http.server and 80. So again, what this alias does is if you type in www, and I'll show you how to do all this, it'll actually run this sudo python 3 command. And what that's going to do is stand up an HTTP server in your current working directory. So if you're in just your root directory, if you're in just / right, it's going to stand it up in there, and you're going to have a web server on your entire box. So generally, you only want to stand up a web server or a file server or something like that in a directory that you want to give access to that directory in any subdirectories. You never want to do it on a parent directory that somebody shouldn't have access to those files. So we're going to put it on, we're just going to put this command in right here. And then the next one we're going to do, so we're going to do alias. I also use in a lot of, CTF style things. And again, you can do this on a pen test. If you have the ability to come back to your own machine, if you're in a cloud environment, whatever the case may be, But especially these definitely help when you're working with Hack the Box, OSCP, VHL for Vuln Labs, anything like that. These are really good commands to kind of just shorten and save you some time or memorization. So the other one, now again, because this is Parrot, it is not Kali. SMBserver.py is not in your bin file, but what is, or in your bin directory, but what is mpacket dash. Oops, like I said, we gotta do this through sudo. So sudo mpacket dash smb server, and if I'm correct in this, which I probably am, we're gonna call the share name share. And this is another one. Now you could put a full path here, and then no matter what directory you're in, it'll go to that path. I currently don't have one set up, so we're just going to tell it to run whatever directory I'm in. That's what this is going to run from. Same way I do my HTTP server, anyways. So it makes it easy. So we're going to do there, and that way I always remember that I change directories to where I want it to be, anyways. So we're going to do that one, and Parrot upgrade's already in here, so we already know that's good to go. Off the top of my head, I don't have any other aliases that I set up. They already set up all the LS ones. These are just two for CTF style things that I like to set up on a regular basis. So we're going to have those in there. Now, like I said, we're in insert mode. So if you look at the bottom, and we're going to go down here. If you see right down here, insert, if we hit escape, it goes away. So now we can go up and down, but we can't make any changes unless we hit I or some other special keys to go in and overwrite or insert or what have you. So now, since we're in that mode, we're going to hit the colon, and then we're going to hit W for write and Q for quit. And now we have that. Now, here's the kicker though. So if you immediately try to type in www, nothing's going to happen. It says command not found. And the reason for that is this session of terminal has not loaded up the new configuration. It has not loaded up the new bash RC file, so it doesn't know to go through the new bash aliases and things like that. So what you have to do, now you could probably refresh it or open up a new terminal tab or whatever, but we're just going to get out of it so that we know we're good. We're going to go here. Now, like I said, you never want to run this from something that you don't necessarily want to give someone access to. So if we do LL, I have already created a test folder. So we're going to do cd test. And then we'll do www. Now it works. So if we do if I type that in right, now you'll see I am serving an HTTP server across my IP. So I'm listening on every port that I have, or every interface that I have on port 80. So now if I were to go from a victim machine into a wget or assert util or anything like that, I could actually pull files from this machine. Again, we're not going to do that right now. This is just an example of aliases I set up. Now later on down the line, as I get into more and more and we start looking at different capture flag style, or when I start setting up more examples, I will show you the actual transfer files. For now, it's just a matter of showing you how we go about configuring these aliases. Now, to get out of this, simple Control C closes out of that. Now, the other one we set up was file server, correct? So if we do FS, now there are a lot of errors here due to the way it is structured and due to the way the program is coded currently. And I have not gone through to figure out what all these errors are exactly at the moment. Although it does look like a lot of syntax warnings. So that's something that I'll have to troubleshoot later on down the line. But I can tell you it's actually working. By the fact that you see the mpacket version 0.9.20 and all the config files and the callback parse, it's actually there and it's functioning. So again, we'll see this later on down the line. Again, as I get back into when I actually am going after a victim machine or things of that nature, we'll be able to see what happens when we do SMB calls. And I will actually show you, and what I'll show you right now is another alias we should probably set up. So we'll hit Control C to close out of that to get the keyboard interrupt. We'll do clear cd slash, and we're gonna do vi bash dot bash underscore aliases, and we're gonna hit I. We're gonna set up one more now that I think about it, and it is because there are certain times where you need to be able to support SMB2. So we're gonna do alias fs2 equals sudo mpacket server dash smb2 support share dot slash. And now if we were to execute fs2, we'd see the same errors and issues and things like that with the way it is coded. And again, that's something I'll troubleshoot, and once I go through and figure out whether it's an impacted issue or what have you to get rid of the coding errors, I'll make sure to let you guys know. But for now, I have used it with those errors in the past, so I do know it'll work. But all we did now was make it to where if somebody's running something where they have to talk over SMB version 2 or higher, you can actually use it. So because with the initial impacted SMB server, it is only SMB v1. So, you know, we have those. So now we can handle version 2 and version 1. So we would close out of that, go back in, and just so we can see it, we'll do fs2. And with SMB2 support, what do you know? We get no errors. So it's up to you how you want to run it, but we can see that it is functioning and you are able to do all the different callbacks. So we'll close out of that once again. Some of the other basic things you may want to look at in the future is, and you can go through and take a look at. So this down here is just your networks. If you were using a wireless card, if you have it hardlined into your computer, you'll see a different connection. This right here is your clipboard, so you can see anything that you may have on there. This down here is your volume, so you can change your microphone volume, analog output volume, things of that nature. And of course your clock, which you can go through, set, change, and things of that nature. This right here will allow you to add and remove any other widgets you want to remove. And that will about cover the basics for today. Now, again, this is just a basic rundown of some of the things I do when I initially set up my distribution and my desktop or whatever the case may be. And it's something that you can do on any Linux distro. So different terminals have different RC files or configuration files. So for instance, if you're using Z shell, it's ZSHRC. Again, bash is bashrc, and the list goes on. There's so many different types of shells out there. There's Python shells, Ruby shells, Perl shells, bash, Z shell, and again, it goes on and on. So you pick what you'll enjoy. I've used Z shell. Z shell is very good. Used a few others, but for right now, since we're sticking with basics, we're going to stick with what runs on Parrot, or what is the default on Parrot, which is bash. They do, if I'm not mistaken, and just for the sake of this video, to show you that shell, if we do ZSH, it's there. We would have to do a configuration for it. We're going to quit and do nothing because I'm not going to go through and configure this right now, but it can do, you can do Z shell. So again, this was just an overview, just some basics, just something that you may want to look at configuring here in the future. But I hope you stick with me, and please like the video, subscribe to it, share it, get the word out there. I'm going to be doing more of these. So not only is it going to be about ParrotSec and the things it can do, and I swear, we're going to go over some of the security tools and some of the other features it has. But for now, and we're going to slowly get into those. So today was changing your background, looking at your toolbar down bottom, and changing your bash RC and, well, creating your aliases file so that BashRC can use them. So again, please, I love you guys. I hope to bring more to you in the future, and again, I will in the coming days and weeks and things like that and months. So bear with me. Any constructive criticism is welcome. Please like this video, subscribe to it. Let's keep the love going. Let's continue to share knowledge and get the word out about all the great things we can do in cybersecurity and IT. Don't let any of the craziness now stop you from growing and learning. So again, I love you guys. Take care.